Hello, my name is Paul Miners. Welcome back to another one of my YouTube videos, or to the podcast if you're actually listening to the audio of this on my podcast. And today I have a minor update for you. If you've never seen one of these videos or listened to one of these episodes before, minor updates, this is something I do approximately every quarter. I've been doing it for the last year or year and a half or so, where I just sort of share behind the scenes what I'm up to, really, both in my business and in my personal life as well. Just share kind of things I'm doing and just take you behind the scenes a little bit. And I can just kind of speak freely off the cuff. I don't have much planned in the way, I don't have any script or anything planned. I just have some notes in front of me of some things I wanted to share. In terms of the business side of things, in terms of how everything is going, business is going really well, actually. We continue to just focus on making our systems and processes better. As per my last episode of the podcast, actually, if you listened to my podcast last week, I talked about how for the last few years, I haven't focused on growth. My goal with the business has always been, how do I make our business more efficient? How do I improve our process and make everything more efficient? Because that's going to mean we can handle more clients. It's going to make life easier for me, for Warwick, my colleague, and the other contractors on our team. So efficiency first has always been the goal. And it just so happens that the byproduct of that is growth. You know, when we're more efficient, when we have better systems in place, we're able to handle more clients. We can increase our capacity. We can service our existing clients more efficiently and effectively, so they're happier. And so that just continues to be the thing that we focused on most behind the scenes, is making our processes and systems better and more efficient. And so haven't really changed much in the business. Like, in fact, from a business standpoint, don't have many updates, or it's been pretty boring. In fact, like, we're not focusing on pumping out loads of new products. We're just continuing to refine, and I think that's okay. And I think maybe I'm happy with that. And I think my takeaway here for you, listener, if you're a business owner, I think it's okay. You can give yourself permission to not always be developing like a new product or completely reinventing your business. Actually, for a while now, we've just focused on, let's make everything a little bit better. And I think the proof is in the pudding. Like, we've certainly seen that our lives just get easier. The more we learn, the more we apply what we've learned from different client experiences and trying to refine the process as we go. We've just gradually made life easier for ourselves. And I think, because as a business owner, sometimes you're torn. You're like, oh, I need to be constantly pushing for more and developing a new product, or trying to do more marketing and getting more customers. But I guess doing all of this gives me, as I've been doing this for a while, I've realized it's okay to not constantly be chasing more clients and doing the next big thing. Like I've said to my clients for years, we only consult on Asana. We only do Pipedrive for our CRM. While we could get into HubSpot or Monday or ClickUp, there's demand for those services. We prefer to keep our offering and our service really niche and really focused, because when we do something really well, we can be the best at it. And I think that really shows. So that's my kind of business update. My sort of boring business update is that we just continue to refine, and that's okay. I'm actually really happy with that and how that's going. Did actually have quite an interesting experience recently. And I'm not going to name any names here, but I wanted to share, I guess, my takeaways from this somewhat, I guess, how would I describe it? A bit of a unfortunate experience that I had, where I was booked onto a podcast. We'll call this person Jamie. I was booked onto a podcast, Jamie's podcast, earlier in the year. And funnily enough, Jamie actually used to be a client. A few years ago, we did some work with Jamie, very small project, helped Jamie and his team with Pipedrive, and reconnected earlier this year. I was booked as a guest on his podcast. And after the podcast, Jamie said, hey, why don't you book a slot on my calendar. Let's chat next week and let's talk, because I've definitely got a lot of clients that I can refer you to who would benefit from your service. And I thought, great, sounds really good, yeah. So I went through this process, spoke to Jamie, and actually it was a really interesting process, because Jamie actually said, look, actually to refer the types of clients or to refer my network to you, we actually need to make your offer higher ticket. And so actually over a couple of sessions, Jamie said, look, let's price it more like this, because these big business owners, they want the best support possible. So he actually helped me to really refine and develop a new offering, and we focused more on the Asana consulting that I do. He helped me to develop this new really high-end consulting offer. And that was a really valuable experience. I'm really grateful for Jamie for what he did there. And then Jamie said, look, okay, this is really good. We're ready now. I can definitely get you more business. I have a program where I can guarantee to refer you 10 high-ticket leads per month. And I said, well, that sounds really good. How do you do that? And this is where Jamie was a bit vague on the details. He sort of said, we market to my network and I can offer direct referrals and things. And we'll just make sure that we're putting you in touch with people who are the right fit for your business. And I thought, okay, sounds good. And I think that was the mistake that I made, is I didn't dive into too much detail on how he actually delivers those leads to us. And I'll get more back to that in a bit. But I ended up signing up to this high-ticket program that Jamie offers. We had a kickoff call. And then on this kickoff call with Jamie and one of the members of his team, I then realized that actually what this program is that I'd signed up to is where they book guests for you onto your podcast. And you can either set up a brand new podcast, or in my case, we said, look, we'll book them onto your existing podcast. And you're going to use these interviews as a way of starting a conversation with someone. They're going to be high-ticket business owners who we're going to qualify first. They're going to be a good fit for your service, but you're going to do these interviews. And then after the interview, you'll then kind of schedule a sales call and you'll go through discovery and pitch them on your service ultimately. So actually very much like what Jamie had done for me. I did his interview, I did the podcast interview, and then he booked me on a call and he sold me on his service. And so initially my thought was like, well, okay, that's interesting. Like, that's not what I thought I was getting. I thought I was getting more like marketing to your network and referrals and that kind of thing. But you know what? It worked in my case. You signed me up. I thought it worked quite well. So let's give it a go. Even though I was a bit nervous, a bit hesitant at the time, I was like, let's just give it a go. You've got this guarantee in place. And so over the next, it was a couple of months, I suppose, I worked with his team to set up this booking workflow. I had to record all these videos and I went through the process. And I did a number of interviews, and actually, unfortunately, I'm not going to be publishing them because we had a bit of a falling out. And long story short, I did these interviews, and some of the leads just weren't the right fit for me. They were never going to be a good fit for us, or they were already using different tools, so they would have never bought our consulting services. And I brought up these concerns with Jamie and said, look, ultimately, I don't think this model is right for me. Number one, I actually don't want to be doing podcast interviews to start a sales conversation. While it might be successful, obviously it worked in my case, you sometimes have to think about what do you want to be spending your time on in your business, and what kind of business do you want to run? And for me, it's just not a fit for me. I don't want to be doing these podcast interviews in order to get booked onto, in order to get sales leads. I actually have plenty of inbound inquiries and I can sell them quite efficiently as is. So I brought up these concerns, and Jamie understandably tried to work with me to work out, like, can we market differently? Can we get you in front of more partners and things? And I said, look, ultimately this program's not right for me because I just don't want to be spending time on these interviews. I requested a refund, and it took a bit of back and forth to get that processed. And ultimately I was able to get a partial refund on my sign up, but I don't think Jamie handled that part of the process very well. I thought the communication was slow, and I requested calls so that we could try and resolve it quickly, and I didn't get that. I felt like I was being ignored at times. So we had a bit of a falling out. Look, it was all okay. We ended it on good terms. But I think my takeaway from this experience is that, I shouldn't have rushed into it, because when he first said, look, I can get you these 10 guaranteed leads per month, I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And I really should have probed more. I really should have tried to find out more about how do you actually do that. And looking back now, I think Jamie was being deliberately vague. I don't know if I'm going to call it misleading or not. I know that one way of selling your services is to focus on the outcome. And that's what Jamie was doing here, is he was saying, look, you want 10 high-ticket business owners referred to you per month. And that's what I'm going to deliver, is we're going to get them booked onto your podcast for you. So he's really focusing on the outcome is we're going to get 10 high-ticket introductions to you per month. How we do that is these podcast bookings. And I think he was being vague because the outcome is what sells, right? And I get that. But in my case, in my business, when I'm selling to a customer, when I'm developing a relationship, I do get a lot of questions about how do we work together? You know, when we get on a call, how do we spend that time? And I'm very specific on what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be using that time with you. And his approach to selling is more, don't worry too much about the how. If I can guarantee this result, the how sort of is less important. I understand that. But my takeaway, I don't fully agree with that approach to selling. And my learning from this experience is I should have probed more and dug more into how are you actually going to help me. Because normally when I make big decisions, I'm very data-driven and objective. And I often think about, how am I going to get this return on investment? If I invest in you, and I'm actually kind of going through this again now with this new person who's reached out to me that says, we can help you, we can be your outsourced sales team. And so now I'm taking my time a lot more to look at the numbers and understand how am I going to get an ROI? Is this a good fit for my business? Because I think in this case with Jamie, I kind of rushed into it a little bit. Well, not rushed in, but he was like, let's book the kickoff call, let's start next week. And I was like, yeah, let's go for it. And I really should have followed my gut. I should have been more data-driven, and I should have got more detail like I normally would. Anyway, interesting experience. Bit of a shame how it all panned out, but something we went through recently. And I'm glad it's all kind of behind me now. The other big updates from me for the last couple of months, I think my last update was in April. The two biggest things are, number one, we've welcomed our second baby boy, Murphy, into the world. He was born at the beginning of June, a little bit early, a couple of weeks early, in the middle of the night, and we had to have a C-section. But he's here now, and oh man, what an adjustment, like to become a dad of two boys now. Jay, our eldest, he's nearly 4 in October, and it's an interesting time because mum and dad now, we just had one boy to look after, and we can kind of tag team, and when it's 2-on-1, it's a lot easier, I think. And now we're having to sort of divide and conquer a lot of the times. And actually, everyone says, how's the baby? Is he sleeping? Is he good? And he's, sleeping really well at night. Actually, the challenging thing is our eldest boy, Jay, who is obviously adjusting to having to share mum and dad a little bit more. I think he's also at that age as a boy where they're actually starting to develop testosterone, and so they get a bit more emotional anyway. And so he's sort of the tricky one at the moment. We're trying to get him to drop the dummy as well. So that's where actually we're having a little bit more difficulty at the moment is managing Jay. But look, it's all temporary, and it's all fine. But no, great to have Murphy here. It's funny, I think we're already sort of talking about a third one, like, wouldn't it be great to have another one? TBC, we'll see. But yeah, getting time to yourself is rare now. I think a lot of the dads listening can certainly relate. Oh, and the mums as well. Sorry, the mums have got it worse than the dads. Like Haley never gets a time to herself because she's just attached to the baby the whole time. The joke is that he feeds once a day, all day. So the mums definitely have it worse than the dads, I think. But yeah, like time to yourself is rare. So when I do get an opportunity to go for a walk, like I will do today, I'm still working from home. I'll go out for a walk at lunch, and it's just me by myself. It's you learn to really sort of cherish those moments. But that's the first sort of major update from us is welcoming Murphy into the world. And the other major update is that we are this Friday, actually probably by the time this episode goes out, but this Friday as I'm recording, we will be purchasing a section of land about 2 minutes down the road from where we are, and we're going to be building a house. So all going to plan, we'll be paying our deposit this week. And so, this is a massive project that we are embarking on. Obviously, we're going to be selling the house that we live in, and we have a rental that we'll be selling as well. And even still, we're going to have a pretty decent mortgage on this new build that we'll be doing. And so with that, I would say it's been sort of the biggest decision I've had to make in my life in terms of really making sure I'm comfortable committing with this. Like making the decision to propose, to have a baby, that was easier than actually committing to this. Because with proposing, it's like, yeah, I love my girlfriend at the time and I want to be with her for the rest of my life. It just sort of felt like an easy decision. Same thing with having kids. It's like, yeah, I think we really want to do this. This is going to make us really happy. With the house, it's like, there's a lot of money involved, and so it's a big decision, especially at this time where, inflation's quite high right now. We probably have a recession coming up. So it's a big commitment to be making while there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of factors we can't control here, like how much can we sell our property for? What are the building costs going to be? What are interest rates going to be in next year? What's the final cost of the build going to be? Because we can't get a complete fixed price. So there's all these unknowns that we have to plan for. And finally, going back to that experience I talked about before, I'm taking a very objective, very calculated approach to making this decision, or I have done. I've got spreadsheets set up which forecast out our payments and the cost of the project. And I guess with a lot of these uncertain factors that we have to consider, the biggest thing for me has been being able to work out, even if everything goes wrong, if interest rates go up, if we can't get as much for our house, if the cost of the bill is higher than we expect, can we still make this work? Can we still afford this, even in a worst case scenario, if everything goes wrong? And the answer is yes, I think we can. And so that's what ultimately gave me the confidence to say, yes, let's do this, is I think doing that sort of disaster planning, if everything goes wrong, we can still make this work. Because then the likelihood of everything going wrong is probably on the lower end. Hopefully, we're not going to, maybe, we'll get more than we think for our house, or building costs won't go up as much as we think. We're sort of planning for the worst, and hopefully we'll end up with a situation where it's not quite as terrible as we think. But, we have to account for that, because it is a big decision. We have to make sure that, or I have to make sure that, being the sole income earner for our family, that we can make this work even if everything goes wrong. But despite all that, it's obviously a very big decision to make, but despite all that, we're really excited. So we're going to be going unconditional on the land purchase this week. We'll probably start the build early next year. And it's going to be a really fun project. We get to build our dream home to the specification that we want. We'll probably, obviously we'll live there for a while, I expect, probably planning to live there for at least a few decades, which is funny for us because we've always moved every couple of years. We've always, stepped up and up on the ladder. But I think now we're ready to make that kind of final step to our forever home. And so that's sort of the second big update for us is committing to this project. It's been months in the making to do all the planning, to visit the site with the builder and the architect, get their input, and no, we're really, really excited. Only other final kind of changes for me, really, or things I wanted to share when I was bullet pointing the agenda for this episode. Recently, I've been getting back into some Wim Hof breathing. If you Google the Wim Hof method, maybe some of you have heard of it before. Wim Hof is this guy who developed this breathing and cold therapy techniques that help you to improve your health, your immune, your cardiovascular health. And I signed up to his program years ago, probably back in 2017. Did his breathing program and really enjoyed it at the time. And I've just been kind of reconnecting with all of that. So I've been doing Wim Hof breathing a couple of times over the last week or so. Really enjoy the breathing exercises. It's this exercise where you basically inhale a lot of air and then you don't fully exhale, which means your blood becomes very oxygenated and alkaline. So you're sort of taking a big deep breath and then letting it go. So you sort of do this about 30 to 40 times. You do a breath hold at the end. So you breathe in, let go, and then you hold on the out breath for as long as you can. And usually first round, you're doing sort of a minute and a half. By round 4, you're getting up to over 2 minute breath holds on the out. And so what does this do for you? Well, I won't get into all the science of it, but it's supposedly helping you to reduce inflammation in your body. All I can really say is that the sensation when you do this breathing exercise is crazy. It's like my brother who did it years ago with me described it as like it's a workout for your blood. My blood in my hands and my arms are tingling when I'm done, and you just feel energized when you're done, having gone through these intense breathing exercises. So I've been getting into that. I've actually done a couple of cold showers as well, because you're supposed to pair the breathing with cold showers. So I just end my shower on cold now, and it's a real shock to the system, but it's again, you use your breath to try and control your body's response. And actually I did a cold plunge over the weekend. Just at home we have a spare wheelie bin, it's all clean. I'm not getting into a rubbish bin, but filled it with water and did a 5-minute cold plunge, and you get out just feeling super energized and yeah, just like kind of buzzing. So anyway, just been getting back into that recently. I'm kind of keen to explore that a little bit more. And I think that's it from me. Those are my minor updates, what we've been working on the last couple of months. Yeah, hope this is interesting. If you enjoy sort of me taking you behind the scenes like this and sharing kind of some personal and business updates and what's going on behind the scenes, let me know if you enjoy this in the comments, and if there's anything else you want to learn about in the future, let me know in the comments kind of what I can talk more about that interests you. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for your listening, for your time today, and I'll see you in the next video or on the next episode of the podcast.